It's been a difficult week. And when you have a difficult week, you turn to your comfort books. So, please hit the like and subscribe and let me know I'm doing a good job. I just read books and talk about books. I'm a series person, so I like to do series. I like to read about the character progression from book to book to book. Usually like a mystery, so that there's a murder or something, or a puzzle or something solved each book, but then you get to watch the characters grow and, become friends and associates and all that kind of stuff as the book goes on. So anyway, this is the D. Louise book series, and I'm Christina, Kristina. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. I just read books and talk books. There are no special effects. I have no theme music. I have nothing. It's just me reading books, talking books. So, and this particular series, this is the 35th book in the series. And I have all of the books, hardcover and on CD, audiobook. And some of the earlier ones, I have paperback and hardcover. And a little secret, some of the early ones that I found in hardcover are different from the paperbacks. The paperbacks were updated, maybe a few lines were changed, there's a paragraph here or there that are not included in the original hardcovers. So that's just a little hint there, little extra. So anyways, as you can see, we are talking about J.D. Robb, Delusion and Death, book 35 in the Eve Dallas series. This is a very inclusive book. It includes almost the entire cast. The entire cast gets what one of my authors calls on stage time. So we had a couple of difficult situations occur. We had treachery where Peabody had that instance with the crooked cop, and we also so that situation there. And then of course Eve went New York to Dallas. That was a difficult book there for Eve, and some of those situations are addressed in here. And then we had a little bit of a lighter book, kind of, sort of, with Celebrity and Death. So now we are up to Delusion in Death, like I said, book 35. Eve Dallas is a lieutenant in the New York City Police and Security Department, and that's how she sees herself solely. She's a cop, period, end. Although we're getting over 2 years now, and she's slowly starting to accept that she's Rock's wife, and she's also has gained friends. She's got Mavis, the singer, now. And we will eventually stop mentioning the fact that Mavis was once on the grift, because that kind of gets old quick. We have Nadine, the reporter, and the author of the Alcove case. And she will also be author of the Red Horse case. Rourke is her husband, the richest guy in the world. Peabody is her partner. Somerset is the major domo and the butler, and Rourke's father figure, sort of, kind of. McNabb is Peabody's love interest. He also works in EDD, Electronic Division, under Feeney. We have Whitney, her boss. Tibble, his boss. Mira is the department shrink and friend. And we have Baxter and Shuhart. Shuhart is the green, brand new rookie in the field, working with Baxter, getting trained, and he's just lovable. He's had a couple of hiring situations. We have a whole bunch of cast of characters that show up. We get to see Morris, the coroner. Dickhead is the chief forensic technical chemical guy. And I don't know if we see Harvey or not. I don't remember. But so that's the situation there now. Because of, if you've read all the books in order up to this point, you know that Eve had a really difficult childhood. So that has a lot to do with New York and death. And we didn't talk about it much last book because it really didn't pertain. In this book, it pertains. So there will be some major spoilers here. Smokey, I'm gonna have a cat fight on my hand in a minute. All right, I lost my co-host. He got chased out of town by a female. So, anyways, we have a very sick, very mentally sick person who is very selfish, self-centered minded individual, and the kind of person who likes to take credit for other people's work. He or she has recently discovered their true biological heritage, and instead of thinking how horrible and horrific this is, they embrace it. They decide that this is a really excellent discovery. And they find out that their ancestor was a terrorist and specialized in chemical warfare. And they find the recipe for it, and they decide that they are going to take out the people that are blocking their career path. And while they do that, they create carnage, as Eve Dallas says, and hundreds of people will die. So I have a couple of spoilers for you. We did this. Okay, so also in this book, Somerset plays the major domo butler, Rourke's father figure, plays a huge part in helping Eve in the revelations. And he has a couple of good scenes. So, spoiler alert, I like to read my books a lot. I heard the media report Somerset began without preamble. Eve waited for the clever insult and could only frown as he continued without one. They aren't detailed, of course, as of yet, but that many deaths in one place contained in one place, and you own, he said to Rourke. It's disturbing. We're disturbed, Eve responded, and turned for the stairs. Somerset kept his gaze on Rourke. Were you the target? No. The lieutenant disagrees. Now she had Somerset eyes on her and Rourke, and in Rourke she clearly read the warning. I don't disagree. I say very unlikely. Don't placate me, either of you. This wasn't about me. Rourke raked his fingers through his hair, a sure sign of agitation. Eve says very unlikely only because she's a cop, isn't she? And she considers every possibility, however remote. How did they die? I'll know soon enough in any case, Somerset reminded Eve. The reports are starting to speculate about poison or a chemical agent, a virus. Anonymous sources claim the bar looked like a battleground littered with corpses. Shit, was all Eve said. It was all of that. Rourke rounded on Eve as she cursed again. Don't be stupid. He'll know soon enough, just as he said, and he's bloody well entitled to know. I decide who's bloody well entitled to know on my case. And your bloody case happened in my place, and a number of my employees are in the fucking morgue tonight. So I have some say in it. By the level of foolish brickling, I assume you haven't eaten. Somerset interrupted, coldly calm. Either of you go in the dining room and sit down at the table like normal humans. He strode off, and a flicker of hesitation, Galahad trotted after him. I'm going upstairs. The hell you are. You'll be sitting your ass down in the dining room. Rock took her arm to steer her there. She dug in her heels. I have work, goddammit. He doesn't run my life, and neither do you. We'll sit and we'll eat because he asked. When was the last time he asked you for anything? Anything. She started to snap back with an answer, but realized she didn't have one. I don't ask him for anything either. But you food to put in your belly when you remember to eat, clean clothes, a house that runs smooth, so neither of us have to give it a thought. Why are you so pissed all of a sudden? 2 seconds ago you were kissing my hand, now you're in my face. Because he's been waiting since he heard the first report, and I never let him know where I was or what was happening. I never gave it a thought as I was wrapped up in the business of it and you. And that neglect shamed him. He would have made inquiries, of course, and would have known we were both unharmed, but I should have spoken with him myself. So it's myself I'm so all of a sudden pissed at, and you're collateral damage. Now the both of us will do what he asked, and we'll sit down to eat, and we'll tell him what he can be told. Whether you like it or not, he's family. So they go through it, and Somerset, they sit down to dinner with him. God, I have bad lighting. Like I said, I'm not technical savvy. I have no special effects. This is bad lighting. So they have the dinner, and Somerset's revelation, the first of couple. He said nothing for a moment as Rourke poured wine for all of them. There were 2 incidents similar during the urban wars. Everything froze. This happened before? Eve demanded. I can't say it's the same. I wasn't there, but I know someone who was at the first attack. He told me he was going to a cafe where some of the underground was known to meet and where he hoped to have some personal time with a woman he had feelings for. He was young, no more than 18, I think. It was in London, South Kensington. Most of the main fighting was done there at the time. He was a half a block away when he heard the screaming, the crashing, the gunfire. He ran towards the sounds. Many were dead. The window of the cafe burst as he ran to it by bullets, by bodies being heaved out. There were only perhaps 20 in the cafe at the time. All of them were dead or dying by the time he was able to get through. He assumed, as did others who'd come, it was an enemy attack, but all the dead and dying were known. What caused it? He shook his head. The military came in, closed it off, and closed it down. It happened again in Rome a few weeks later. Our ears were to the ground for a repeat. In the wine was what we were told. Whoever hadn't had any was killed by those who had, and they were maddened by it. Was it in the wine? We were never able to learn. It never happened again. Not that we heard. And we heard everything sooner or later. So Eve has Somerset look into it. Oh, and spoiler alert, we're in the middle of a hurricane. It's getting a little rainy out there. So then Somerset tells her that they were called the Red Horse, second horseman of the apocalypse. So he tells them all that. And then Eve has to talk to Mira about what happened in Dallas. They have a follow-up call meeting. And she also talks to her about the case. And then some people show up. Now, I don't think I talked about it much in the book that it happened in. But a few books ago, and approximately a year in book time, I forget which book it was, the one with Reva Ewing and her mom, and the case with the spies. But anyway, she had trouble with the HSO, and she found out it's Homeland Security, but they call it HSO in this book, in this series. And she had discovered that they knew about her childhood, and they had proof of what her father did to her, and she was abused and raped continually under the age of 8, consistently, and they knew it, and they didn't do anything about it because her father, they wanted a Max Fricker, friend, associate of Rock's dad and her dad, so they just let it go. And then all the other betrayal stuff that the HSO did to her during the case. So Agent Tisdale comes back and wants to work, and Eve agrees, and she has to tell Rourke. So there's 2 additional revelations before we let this go. This first one. What is it? You're not going to like what I have to tell you. It wasn't an easy call to make, but it was my call, and it's the right one for them. She nodded towards the boards. What call would that be? She's talking to Rourke, by the way. I forgot. We're taking on an agent for HSO as a consultant. His eyes went cool, very cool, before he turned and walked to the auto chef. Thought he performed the task every day of programming coffee. Eve knew when he walked away his anger was fierce. If we're going to fight about it, we have to fight later. There's no time now. But I need to tell you, Rourke, I need to tell you, I know what you did for me last year when you stepped back from taking retribution against the people in the HSO who listened and did nothing while my Richard Troy beat and raped me. I know what it cost you to do that. I know what you did for me. You put me first. You put us first. I don't forget that. I won't ever forget it. And yet, he said softly, I can't put me or us ahead of them. All these faces, I can't. I just won't let what happened to me years ago determine how I do my job for them. It's already caused us both too much grief and pain. It has to stop. Maybe you'll have made a different call, but yes, because I think more of you than you do. She couldn't fight it, couldn't find the fight, only the heart he filled with those simple words. No one's ever thought of me the way you do. I don't forget that either, and I knew when I made the decision it would upset you. You have every right and reason to be upset. I'm sorry. And then they tell. Now, the big, huge spoiler alert. And I think it's a very important part in this series. A huge, huge part in this series. It's a discussion between Peabody and Eve. And Eve is partners with Peabody, and they've had a long-standing relationship since like book 3. Peabody is her partner, and her, she started as her aide and then became her partner. And Eve has decided that Peabody should know stuff. It's really important to her that Peabody know what happened in New York to Dallas. And you should know they're sitting in the car. They're sitting in Eve's car. They're sitting in the DLE, the best car, one of the best cars. She's having a private talk with Peabody. You should know what went down in Dallas with McQueen's partner. She drove out of the garage, concentrated on traffic. It might be easier to lay it out if she had to pay attention to the external. She was no damn good, and I'd say she was proud of it. She was as effed up as he was, maybe more. Yeah, it tightened her belly to hear it, but she could live with it. That was the key, she reminded herself, just living with it. When we were looking for his partner, running the list and images of women who visited him in prison, something about her, as Sister Susan, kept pulling me back. I thought maybe I busted her sometime or interviewed her. Same deal with her other IDs. Just something that tugged, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Curious, Peabody shifted towards Eve. Had you busted her? No. Maybe you recognized the type, instinct kicking in. That's what I thought, but it wasn't it, or not all of it. You read the reports. You know we had her and her place covered. We were right there when she walked out of the taxi, going to meet up with McQueen. Bad luck. A kid on a bike, a little dog's oncoming car. She made us took off. I wish I'd been there. I probably wouldn't have at the time, flying down the street after her van crashing. You got banged up. Not bad. It wasn't bad. A little bloody, a little bruised, Eve thought. She had come, the bad came later. She got banged up, no airbags, safety gel in the clunky van, and she hadn't taken time to hook her seatbelt. Good, she deserved to get banged up. I was pissed, Eve continued, afraid she'd been able to tag McQueen during the chase, knowing damn well we'd lost the best chance to find him and get the kid and Melanie back safe. So pissed. All the rage, Eve thought, pushing through it like an open wound, and then I yanked her out of the van, got her blood on me. I spun her around, stupid pink sunglasses hooked on her face, pulled them off her. I looked at her face, into her eyes, and I knew her. It was Eve's tone that had a chilling work up Peabody's spine. She spoke carefully. You didn't put that in your report. No, it didn't have anything to do with the case. It was personal. She went by Stella back then, where I remember her from. She changed her eyes, her hair, and some work done, but I knew her. It was Stella. She was my mother. Jesus. Peabody laid her hand on Eve's arm, just a light touch, though her fingers wanted to tremble. You're sure? I guess I thought she was dead. I mean, had been dead all along. Aren't you cute? You are the cute. My cat here is rolling all over 6 ways to Sunday. She's giving me comfort. She's my new comfort cat, or she's trying to be anyway. I had the blood, hers mine. I had Rourke run DNA to verify, but I knew. I don't remember much about her. She left me with him when I was about 4 or 5. I'm not sure, it's vague, but I remember enough. What are you doing? Smokey, what are you doing? I'm glad you came back. You got rid of my other co-host, you know. She left with, did she know? Even the thought of it had sickness coating Peabody's throat. Did she know what he did to you? She had to know. She didn't care. But there's no bittersweet aside here, Peabody. She didn't care, never had. I was a commodity, and the investment was taking too long. Was too much trouble to suit her. That's what I figure. The sickness faded. Its place rose a vicious disgust, icy hot. Did she recognize you? No. I wasn't that important. All she saw was the cop who effed up her plans with McQueen, who put her in the hospital, who was going to put her in a cage. I've put her in a cage. Maybe I should have put 2 men on her. Dallas, I read the reports. You had her restrained and under guard. There were still cops in the hospital when she escaped. She wouldn't tell me where McQueen was. I couldn't flip her. and I went at her hard, maybe too hard. Stop. Peabody's voice roughened and firm. You did the job. If you weren't sure you could do it, you'd have gotten somebody else to sweat her. But you did the job. What are you doing? So, to hear the rest of the conversation, check out the book, Delusions in Death. And, come here, Peep. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. You're being all cute. You gotta be cute on camera. Here you go. Delusions in Death. J.D. Robb. Eve Dallas, book 35. And please, what are you all tiff now? Please check out Star Trek Fridays and Flashback Mondays, where we talk about books that I used to read in the past or still read. And we go through the magazine, book review times. And it was my Bible back then. It was my book Bible. They did over 200 books a month. No magazine does that today. And it would tell you what all your favorite authors were coming out that month. And you'd run to the bookstore. Oh my God, you'd actually have to physically leave the house to go to a bookstore. This was before Barnes and Amazon and everybody else came into view. What's the matter? She's pissed. She doesn't like being on camera. So, check it out. J.D. Robb, Delusions in Death, and audio. And to read the rest of the revelation and to find out about this sick person that killed everybody and is proud of their heritage and how Rourke and Eve put themselves in danger to solve this case. At the very end, they do it again. All right, it's not the Statue of Liberty with bombs, but it's close enough. It's a person with a vial. And they think they've got the person, and then one in A and B click in Eve's mind, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And her and Rourke put themselves in immediate danger. So you'll have to check it out, and we're moving on to the next book. So check it out, J.D. Robb, Delusion in Death. Thank you. Have a good one. Don't forget the thumbs up.